today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Michaela Mayer's post-fight reaction to the Lauren Price versus Natasha Jonas fight, saying, "Congrats to Lauren Price and Tasha Jonas for the Rumble. All the fights on the card were highly entertaining, and it was a total win for women's boxing. I've got a job to do March 29th, but I fully expect to be sharing the ring with Price later this year. I've talked about how that's easier said than done, because I don't expect Michaela to go back to the UK
to have the fight there. At the same time, I feel like it's going to take more money than Top Rank is willing to pay out to do that same fight here.
We've addressed those difficulties, those obstacles. Now, imagining the fight. Does Michaela Mayer, who's a lot more experienced in the paid ranks than Lauren Price, have what it takes to beat her when Lauren is such a fine physical specimen, sturdier, stockier, stronger, and faster?
How does Michaela Mayer beat her?
I don't really know if she can. It seems to me that now is the best time to catch Lauren Price while she's still a little green around the gills, still less experienced than someone else, and you're not going to outbox her. Your best bet is to outdog her.
A physical fight.
Because she's far too fast for a fight of finesse. You see how she's fighting on the balls of her feet, on her toes, in and out, throwing rapid-fire combinations and stepping out of the pocket before you can respond. By the time you do, you're swinging at air like Natasha Jonas was this weekend. Sharpshooting against Lauren Price is not an option. She's too hard to target. She's too fast. So consistent pressure might be the ticket. Relentless pressure. We've seen that Michaela Mayer, when she wants to, she can be quite aggressive, mid-range to inside, letting big punches go, combinations go. We saw that in the Maiva Hamadouche fight. We saw that more recently in spots with Sandy Ryan. Michaela, over time, has proven herself durable.
She'd have to put her durability to the test against Lauren Price. Being the aggressive fighter, the come-forward fighter, means you're likelier to get hit because you're the one stepping in, you're the one coming forward.
And that's the gamble, the roll of the dice that Michaela Mayer would have to take with Lauren Price, who's far too fast to land a single punch on. A one-hitter quitter? Not that Michaela Mayer is that kind of fighter, because she isn't. Consistent pressure would have to be the ticket to wear down and wear out Lauren Price, who, as impressive as she's been looking, she hasn't been in a dogfight yet. Even with this strategy, it could prove difficult to execute because Lauren doesn't just have hand speed, she's got foot speed too, to create separation and create distance.
Pinning her down to apply that pressure will be difficult enough.
It just isn't easy. Lauren Price, it's hard to imagine that anybody can beat Lauren Price at 147, even at 154.
It's hard to imagine.
Michaela's got to make it past Sandy Ryan one more time before this really becomes a conversation. And even when it does, it's an uphill battle. Lauren Price is fast establishing herself as the best in show at 147 pounds against fighters that are a lot more experienced than she is in the paid ranks. She's dangerous, and it's hard to imagine how anybody's gonna beat her, but that's one way: applying pressure and taking chances, because a fight of finesse simply won't do.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Tank has been dropped out of the Ring Magazine's top 10 pound-for-pound rankings, where David Benavidez has entered at number 10.
The way the list reads, they've got Usyk at number 1, Inouye at number 2, Terence Crawford at number 3, Dmitry Bivol at number 4, Artur Beterbiev at number 5, Jesse Rodriguez at number 6, Canelo at number 7, Junto Nakatanyi at number 8, Devin Haney at number 9, and David Benavidez at number 10.
No Shakur Stevenson?
No, they don't rate him, they don't rank him, and Shakur Stevenson was none too pleased about it. So let's address the first two names. Let's address the absence of Gervonta Davis. Gervonta...
Not only is Gervonta not worthy to be ranked on this list, he's not a pound-for-pound fighter. He's literally the opposite of a pound-for-pound fighter. When you have to bring up smaller fighters up to your weight, sometimes smaller fighters climb up in weight classes. Sometimes smaller fighters move up in weight all on their own, whereas with Gervonta, he deliberately brings them up.
Whether you're talking about Jesus Cuellar moving up from 126 up to 130, Hector Luis Garcia moving up from 130 up to 135, or Lamont Roach doing the same thing, that doesn't prove Gervonta Davis is a pound-for-pound fighter because they're the ones making the climb. You talk about what pound-for-pound is as a concept, and what it is skill apart from size. That even if you're not the bigger guy, you're still the better guy. Pound for pound.
Like Usyk and Fury, Alexander Usyk was outweighed by Tyson Fury in both fights. Fury was the bigger guy, the taller guy, the longer guy, and the heavier guy, but not the better guy because Usyk was better, pound for pound.
I think he is the most obvious example, the most literal, of what a pound-for-pound fighter is supposed to be, outweighed by Tyson Fury by an estimated 50 pounds, I think it was, in their second meeting, and that added 50 pounds was not enough.
So many people try to redefine or restructure what this list is all about, but that's what it's all about. That 221 pounds of Usyk has more boxing skill than 275 pounds, or whatever it was, of Tyson Fury. It is skill overcoming size. So when you're the bigger fighter, bringing up smaller fighters...
How the hell is that pound for pound? When you bring up Jesus Cuellar up from 126 to 130, Hector Luis Garcia from 130 to 135, and Lamont Roach...
You didn't even beat him.
In the 6 years that Gervonta Davis has campaigned as a lightweight, he hasn't faced a single reigning lightweight champion. And there have been several. There was Loma, there was Teofimo, there was George, there was Devin.
There still is Shakur Stevenson. There still is Keyshawn Davis.
Not saying he had to fight them all, but if he would have fought one or some, and then he happens to fight a smaller fighter that's moving up in weight, well, that's permissible. That's all right. But the way it really is, you didn't fight a single champion at your own weight, and all you've been doing is bringing up smaller fighters up to your weight.
When you're not doing that, you're handicapping fighters with weight stipulations that, you went up to 140 for all of 15 seconds for Mario Barrios, but you stuck a rehydration clause on that guy. That's not pound for pound. That's not proving that you can overcome his size.
Let's not even get ahead of ourselves, because you fought Mario Barrios, not Josh Taylor. He was undisputed at the time. If it was about proving that you're pound for pound, then that's the guy you would have fought.
Not Mario. Mario was a goddamn nobody at the time, and people only decided to act like he was a somebody after Gervonta fought him, so it could seem like he beat a good fighter.
It's what they do with all of those scrubs that he fights. The bottom line is, Gervonta Davis never had an argument to be on this list. So when he gets dropped from it...
I just think he never should have been there to begin with. David Benavidez.
He's another one that I don't think should be there, but they've chosen to rank him at number 10, and I don't know why. All he did in his last fight was fight a super middleweight who moved up in weight like himself.
How does that make him pound for pound?
It's not saying you can't give him credit for beating David Morrell. You can. But there's giving him credit, and then there's ranking him on the pound for pound for beating a guy who moved up just like he moved up.
I would swap out David Benavidez for Shakur Stevenson, a 3-weight champion.
Shakur's literally been a champion at more weights than David. He's been a champion in 3 to David's 1, and he's a reigning champion now. Not an interim champion, not a regular champion, not a mandatory. A bona fide champion who beat more champions than David.
I cannot reconcile David Benavidez being there and Shakur Stevenson not being there.
That just makes the list seem like a popularity contest. Take no issue with them still ranking Artur Beterbiev, who's coming off the first loss of his career. Not everybody follows the same rule that I do.
That no fighter coming off a loss, absent of a world title, can maintain a rank. That rule really is exclusive to my list. I don't see very many other people go by a rule like that. So them ranking Artur, I suppose that's fine, but it does look a little odd, a little bizarre when you rank Jesse Rodriguez ahead of Canelo.
I can't wrap my mind around that one. I don't know what Jesse has done that Canelo hasn't done, but here we are. David Benavidez being there, but Zurdo Ramirez, a 2-weight unified champion who beat more champions than David at more weights, he's not there.
Because beating David Morrell is more impressive than beating 2 champions at a new weight, back to back.
Like I said, I can't wrap my mind around it. There are some names that I understand, some names that are permissible, but some things that I'm at odds with that I can't reconcile based on logistics.
Statistics.
It just doesn't make sense for David Benavidez to be there ahead of fighters that are literally more accomplished, that have proven more than he has.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, a closer look at what's supposed to be this TKO boxing league, as Dana White told ESPN, there's going to be one belt per weight class with TKO boxing, along with the basic weight classes that started everything, rather than 17 or 18 like we see in postmodern boxing. It'll be like the UFC. WBC, IBF, WBA, etc. They will deal with those traditional promoters.
So it would appear that it is Dana White's intention to manufacture his own title for his own fighters the same way it is in his UFC. But what that essentially means is that this league or this promotion, whatever it is, it will stand apart from the rest of the boxing world, seemingly living in a separate universe of the same sport.
And thus, not a threat.
Veteran boxing scribe Mike Kopinger stated, "This will be a game changer. The number of weight classes in boxing is frankly absurd and kills the depth across divisions. Without all the super and junior divisions, you'll have a big slate of contenders if it all goes according to plan. What's not a part of the plan is fighting for the same belts as everybody else."
We'll get into what that means.
World Boxing Council President Mauricio Suleiman told ESPN he's not concerned with the TKO boxing venture led by Turkey El Sheikh and Dana White. "I think that anything that comes into boxing is sensational. I have absolutely no negative views whatsoever."
At a time when there was widespread speculation that it is Turkey's intention through this league to phase out the alphabet organizations, what now seems like a gross overestimation.
It's not necessarily that they're trying to phase them out with this league, they're just not invited to the party. Though seemingly as a response to those rumors, multiple WBC title holders posted similar messages about being proud champions. The posts came just 2 days after the unveiling of the TKO Boxing League. However, Suleiman told ESPN on Saturday that there absolutely was no WBC campaign. "I know a lot of people started speculating and finding conspiracy theories or whatever, but absolutely not."
Bullshit. You're telling me that all of those WBC champions just happened to post the exact same post, saying basically the same thing, that this happened at random, or was it that you instructed them to do that as a response?
Mauricio said, "I think the WBC should make its position public, which is TKO boxing is a good opportunity because we have always supported any movement, any company, any tournaments that have been put together. I truly believe that with the multi-billion joint venture that is supposed to be TKO and UFC with WWE and what His Excellency has done in just under 2 years, it should be a great thing for the sport,
even if it's something you don't get to profiteer from, Mauricio."
So in light of these recent details that have been made available by Dana White himself, it seems that so many people grossly overestimated what this thing was going to be. It's tantamount to a promotion, but the reason that they're calling it a league of its own, is because they're going to have their own belt. So because you have so many fighters fighting for a belt, I guess that's what makes it a league. Dana's Little League.
Little?
Yes, little. Compared to the world that will exist outside of this promotion, outside of this league. The amount of fighters that will be fighting for WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF titles versus the number of fighters that will be fighting for a TKO title.
It's a much smaller number. You'll see.
It's all in what Dana White said. WBC, IBF, WBO, etc. They will deal with those traditional promoters. Traditional meaning Matchroom, Queensberry, Top Rank, PBC, Boxer,
Golden Boy.
And that's where the big names are in boxing, spread apart between all of those different promotional outfits to where you can't look at this TKO league as a threat to them. It's just something else entirely, something new, something with a lot of money behind it, but no real threat to the other game in town. They're living parallel to these other promotional outfits, though not necessarily getting in their way or cutting into their profits, their proceeds.
I said it a couple of days ago. Even with Turkey's backing and all of Dana White's big plans, who's intended to spearhead this effort, I don't see these guys being able to run everybody else out of town. Not just with that, and as it turns out, that's not what they're trying to do.
It's just something new. The best case scenario, I think, for Dana White's TKO League is if they're starting from the ground up and starting from scratch, grooming their own fighters, you want to get it to a point where people want to see your fighter fight somebody else's fighter. That's the way it's always been, and that's where the real money is in boxing. It's not enough to just set up your own little biosphere.
You want it to be to where you develop these fighters to a point where people want to see your fighter fight a Matchroom fighter, a Golden Boy fighter, just some other promotions' fighter. That's what your fighters can graduate to under your banner.
That if everything goes according to plan, that can be the end result. Your own factory of superstars that you're manufacturing under your own auspices.
Your own banner, ideally.
None of which is a threat to anybody else in the industry, because like I said, you're existing parallel to them, but not in their way.
I want to see what Dana White is going to turn this into, because if nothing else, he's a smart guy, very successful. I would like to see him sign some female fighters to this thing.
I think there are a lot of women boxers in America that could do with Dana White's promotion, Dana White's branding. I mean, Ronda Rousey was a game changer in her heyday, and all of that happened under the UFC banner. Under this new banner, maybe we see something similar.
Wouldn't mind that.
Putting to rest the story based on what details have been made available, you can kind of see where and how people got carried away, letting their imaginations run wild. That yes, this TKO boxing league is sort of phasing out the alphabets, but only from within their own borders, not from the sport of boxing as a whole.
And I didn't think they could anyway.
Them being competition for the other game in town, no, not necessarily. They're existing in a realm parallel to the world of boxing and the other outfits, but not in their way. And Turkey turning his back on the people he's been working with?
No, he's still working with them. He's just working with somebody else now, somebody new.
Because he's willing to work with everybody, and that's what we've been seeing.
This was all much ado about nothing.